Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We're here today with Kristen Novak, Account-Based Marketing Manager for Strategic Accounts at National Instruments. Kristen, how are you doing today?
Hey, Logan. Very good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, we're really excited to have you. Thanks for making some time for us, Kristen. Before we dive into today's topic, Kristen, I'd love for you to take a second and share with our audience what you and the team at National Instruments are up to these days.
Sure. So I'll start with a little bit about NI. We're headquartered in Austin, Texas, and we're a test and measurement company for large industries like semiconductor and automotive. We're about a $1.2 billion company selling to customers like that. Our ABM team has been around at NI for about 6 years now, and we focus on large account marketing. So there are 12 of us on the team globally, Americas, APAC, and EMEA, and we support about 30 accounts on a one-to-one basis. And we've been, through the work that we do, we've seen on an individual basis that we're influencing anywhere from $1 to $5 million in the sales pipeline for each account.
Wow. You got some big responsibilities on your team there.
Yes, yeah, we do. But it's been fun. And the more successful we're being, the more and more sales wants to work with us, which has been really awesome.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And that really sets the stage pretty well, Kristen, for our topic today of aligning ABM efforts and sales for overall customer success. So you mentioned, that sales is liking you guys, that you guys have done some things to work well with your sales counterparts. So excited to jump in right here. People have been talking about sales and marketing alignment for a while now, but it's not an old topic, I don't think, because I don't think any of us have mastered it. So would love to hear some specifics from you on things that you guys are doing to find success for your marketing team, for the sales team, and ultimately for your customers. So the first thing that you wanted to share, Kristen, was, the aligned approach between sales and marketing starting at the planning phase. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So when we sat down with sales to even pitch that we were going to do account-based marketing for them and what that meant, we started with their needs in mind. They were reading a book called Crack the Sales Management Code, and it's basically about how to set up your sales team for success by building sales and marketing plans based on the customer needs. So we read the same book. We went to sales leadership and we said, hey, we read this book. We really like the approach to create an ROA plan, which is your results, objectives, and activities. And we'd like to do this with you. So rather than building our own marketing plan and then throwing a bunch of things at sales that may or may not have been aligned with their plan, we actually sit down with each individual sales manager that we work with for an account, and we build our plans together. So our objectives come from their objectives. Our activities are really defined by what the customers at these accounts have actually asked for. We'll survey them. We'll get to speak to them in person, and we'll actually build our plans to specifically meet the needs of the sales team and our customers.
Mm-hmm. So what was the reaction from the sales team and the sales leadership when you came to them with this approach from really early on?
So they were excited. They were a little skeptical that we were actually going to be able to be so aligned with them, but they definitely were up to the challenge. So we started by just working on a couple of accounts in this format, and we basically had a full day workshop where we all kind of got in the room and whiteboarded and stuck some Post-it notes up and built a plan. And from there, they were more sellers kept calling and saying, can you support my account? I want to work with you. Can you help me with this? And we're still seeing that every year they want to add more accounts and more support. And it's really been a pretty seamless process for us.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning a little bit about, the size and scope of your marketing team, just so our listeners have some context too. Kristen, what's the size and scope of your sales team, just to give us an idea of kind of what the teams are like and how they're working together?
Sure. So our sales team globally is about 600 sellers. We have field and inside sales. We're a direct sales force. So our account-based marketing team is only supporting a very small subset of that. For the accounts that I work on, I work with 18 sales managers, and some of the other account-based marketers work with less than that. So we're only hitting maybe 10% of the sales base with the actual one-to-one account planning and approach that we're taking, but we're in the process of taking those best practices and that approach and scaling it out to additional accounts so that more sellers can benefit from it.
I love that. Well, the next thing you and I were talking about offline, Kristen, was, efforts that you guys have made to make sure that sales and marketing are speaking the same language. And the ways that you guys have done that has been sharing some of the same training, the same tech stack. Tell us a little bit about what you guys have been doing in that area to continue that alignment from the planning phase onto the day-to-day.
Sure. So in that aspect, our ABM team is essentially treated like another member of the sales team. We're invited to the same trainings that they attend. So that we've gone through a series of trainings lately on a customer engagement process, as well as how to do prospecting and due diligence and activities like that. And we sit in those trainings with them. We attend all of the sales conferences that they attend. So we hear the information that they hear firsthand. And as far as the tech stack goes, we have the same access to our CRM system that they have. We have the same license that a sales manager would have so that we can see the same data that they see. We can pull the same reports. We can create leads. We can create opportunities. We can convert them, and we can collaborate with them in the same environment that they work in.
I love that. I imagine that, just simply using the same tech stack and having those overlaps has really eliminated some of the silos. It seems like such a simple concept, but it sounds like it's had pretty good results for you guys.
Yeah, and it was simple to integrate as well because, while we didn't just say, hey, we want this access and they turned it on. We had a little bit of a process to go through that, but we didn't have to, go add new trainings for marketing or add new platforms. It was like, we just want to work the same way that sales does and have a similar workflow to sales. And it was a no-brainer. And now it's been quite easy to get additional marketing in these trainings and on these platforms. And so far it's been working really well for us.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys get some sideways looks from the sales team in sitting in on some of the same trainings in the beginning?
In the beginning, they were like, oh, what are you doing here? And then, yeah. And they were like, and then it was like, wow, I think more of marketing needs to be here. I think more of marketing needs to hear this. This is actually really good that you're here. And the same thing with the technology. We learned about a week or so ago that I actually have some more access in our CRM than some of our sellers do. That was a pretty funny thing to learn, but they seem to really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that. And it's got to be, creating just more opportunity for dialogue and instead of sales having to come and, explain things to you from their perspective, you're getting a peek into, what they're doing more often and what they're hearing. And so it eliminates, that extra step of that relay of communication. So I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it does for sure. And it's really helped us when they have challenges and pains that they try to express to us. Prior to working this way with them, we were like, okay, sure, I'll see what I can do about that. But we didn't feel it the same way. And now we do. Like, we feel the same pain that they feel. And it's much easier to actually try to activate on it and get some change through the organization.
Yeah. Well, they say, shared experiences are the quickest way to deepen relationships, whether that's, a working relationship or a personal relationship. So I think that, you guys are seeing that played out in the interactions that you guys are setting up between your marketing and sales teams, sharing some of the same tech stack, sharing, some of the trainings, going to the same events. Just creating more opportunity for overlap. I love that. In the area of large account marketing, you mentioned something that's somewhat unique, that in your role, you're actually visiting accounts and sometimes even along with the sales team, or at least kind of phrased as, an extension of the sales team. Tell us a little bit about that approach and what you guys have found through using that with some of your large accounts.
Yeah, so this has been a really valuable experience for me. I go out to my accounts on a quarterly basis. So I support 3 of our largest accounts right now. So I take I take 8 to 10 trips a year to visit these accounts, and they're typically in conjunction with sales visits. And I will actually go and sit in on a technical meeting with the sales manager and a customer or several customers. And the beauty of that has been that when there's a non-technical person in the room, the customer is willing to just spill their guts and just talk about all these little things that they may have never talked to the sales manager about, because our sales managers are engineers and our marketers, for the most part, are not. And we are working with engineers when we go out to see these customers. These are test and measurement engineers that we're visiting. So a lot of things go over our heads, and the customers are very willing to just put it in lay terms for us and really explain it. And it's made it even more valuable for the sales managers because they're learning more information just by allowing us to ask a couple of questions and get some of those insights on our own. So that's been truly valuable. Another interesting thing that we do there that has been helpful for the sales team is that we'll develop our own relationships, and we'll go on a couple of our own visits or meetings while we're there. And those are typically with people in the training organization within an account, or even human resources or customer relations. And we build those relationships so that they can help us be another avenue to get our messages out throughout the account. So if we're hosting an event or a training, or we have some new asset that we want to make sure is consumed, those folks will actually partner with us and help us promote those materials to get them wider spread through the account.
Yeah. So going deeper and wider into those large accounts right alongside sales.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned also, Kristen, that, you're dealing with engineers. You've got sales managers and sales engineers, kind of speaking the same language. Have you found that just being able to be in those meetings, hear how they're talking with each other, then hear how maybe they change their language or something as they, unpack something that you ask or things like that. I imagine that's helped with your messaging, has helped with thinking through, what you're saying in your marketing messaging and how that's being received or not received by these sorts of customers.
It's made a world of difference. We've configured quite a bit of our content from the ABM approach based on those conversations. So, oh, wait, you don't actually say it that way. We've been saying it this way in our flyer. And the engineer will be like, oh, yeah, that doesn't resonate with anybody here. You shouldn't use that word. And we're like, oh, wow. Okay. I'm not going to use that word anymore. I'm going to use this word instead. So it's made a huge difference. It's made us really be able to communicate with them, even if it's through an email or a webcast or something, in their terms rather than in marketing terms. So it's now viewed more like a training or a useful piece of content rather than a piece of marketing fluff.
Yeah. Yeah. People can definitely tell that difference when something's written in the language they're used to talking with their peers about it in. And the more that you can kind of pick up on that and infuse that into your messaging and all your various pieces of content, I've just got to think that has been able to yield, phenomenal results for you guys. Well, Kristen, this has been a great conversation. Again, anytime we can talk alignment between marketing and sales, I think it's valuable for our audience. You've had some great takeaways for folks today. If people want to connect with you, learn more about what you and your team are up to, what's the best way for them to go about connecting with you, Kristen?
Yeah, I'd love for anyone to reach out. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Again, it's Kristen Novak. I'm on Twitter occasionally under the handle Austin Marketer. And I'm also going to be speaking at Flip My Funnel on this exact topic on August 8th in Boston. So hopefully a bunch of the audience can come and see me there and meet in person.
Yes. Well, we've got a brief little announcement on that point, Kristen. So thank you for that nice segue. Excited to hear you at Flip My Funnel. We at the Sweetfish team will be attending, and we know a lot of our guests and audience are planning on going to the Flip My Funnel conference. Kristen, along with a host of other phenomenal speakers, are going to be sharing on some awesome topics August 8th in Boston. As Kristen mentioned, if you are a B2B Growth listener, we've got a special promo code, B2B Growth, B the number 2, B Growth, just like the show name, will get you 50% off the price of admission to Flip My Funnel. So if you go to flipmyfunnel.com, use the 2018 conference link. When you go to get your tickets, use that promo code B2B Growth, and we look forward to seeing a lot of our listeners there.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B Growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B Growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.